YouTubers, this is me, Lonnie Clark, Nuts for Heart, sending out some healing energy to the people in California, frankly across our entire planet. I think we need it right now. So I'm going to be reading these stories from the New York Times. I'm going to show you some maps of where this massive mudslide is, and hopefully we'll bring attention to it like we're doing to the nuclear industry, because somehow these people in California seem to have been lost. I have heard nothing on mainstream news. It doesn't even seem to be hitting. People have just gotten, I don't know, used to disaster. Is that where we're at? I refuse to be used to disaster. So I'm going to keep doing this for another second more, and then I'm going to screen share and read these stories about the mudslides in California, show you some maps. When I say put your courage feet on, I really mean it. The planet's under assault, and it's up to us. We're going to have to push back. I think that's it. So here we go. And I'm going to make an effort not to say the F word, because I think my dad might be watching. I told my dad about my channel, and he went to it, and the first thing he saw was that one where I was screaming and yelling at the beginning of the year, at the end of last year. Anyways, this is the story written by Thomas Fuller, January 10th, 2018. A rush to find survivors amid the mud of Southern California enclave. Look at this. Emergency workers carrying a woman rescued in Montecito, California on Tuesday. I thought what I'd do is show you a map of where this area is. This is exactly where it's at. This is the area. So let's take a wider view so you can see exactly where it's at in California. Pink. So Diablo Canyon is somewhere up here above San Luis Obispo. Yeah, somewhere around there, past Gorda. And I guess this is a little enclave of Southern California, Santa Barbara. The first nuclear meltdown that ever happened is that little white spot right there. So these mountains are fully radioactive, and I wanted to show you this. I went to the map of California. This is the government's website in California that shows you the map of the Thomas fire. And this is Montecito, where they had the fire. Let's see if we can get you closer. And this is what happened. All of this charred, all of this is just nothing but ashes now. And the rains happened, and bada bing, people are suffering. So let me go back and remember to screen share with everybody. Hold on just one second. Okay, so unmuted the phone. I put it on mute so I could clear my throat. So let's go back to this story. This is out of the NewYorkTimes.com, and I do read these stories for people who can't read or don't have the time to read, but you can listen to these stories. It's important for us to stay apprised of what's happening. And so this is to really help people who are vision impaired or reading impaired. You may be able to see well, but not be able to read well enough to understand this. And hearing it might help you comprehend really the gravity of the situation in California. So sad. San Francisco. Rescue workers scoured mud-swollen riverbeds in the wealthy Southern California enclave of Montecito on Wednesday, clutching to the hope that they might find some of the more than a dozen people missing after mudslides swept away about 100 houses. At least 17 people were killed in mud flows so powerful that some one-story ranch homes in the area, which is northwest of Los Angeles, were covered up to their gutters. The devastation, sudden and violent, struck early Tuesday after a winter storm drenched and destabilized hillsides stripped bare last month by the largest wildfire in California history. Good thing I have the story up so you guys can read it yourself. Hundreds of people have been rescued and evacuated, many of them having to be hoisted out of the area by our aircraft, Bill Brown, the Santa Barbara County Sheriff, said Wednesday afternoon. Wow, look at this house. Alex Jimenez of CAL FIRE search for survivors on the East Valley River Road in Montecito. Wow, that is a sad job. After surveying the affected area by aircraft, the sheriff said it was very stunning to see the extent of the devastation, to see the breadth of the area that has impacted so terribly by this. The authorities said 28 people were injured, 4 of them critically. At least 300 houses were damaged in the Montecito area, and many more were listed by the authorities as threatened. We are still in the hopeful, optimistic mode that we can find survivors, said Mike Eliason, a spokesman for the Santa Barbara County Fire Department, which has rescued 6 people since the hillsides gave way. K-9 units worked their way along the Montecito and San Ysidro creeks, where a large number of houses were swept away. The area near the creeks was the most treacherous, Mr. Eliason said, as creeks swelled with the sudden torrents of water mixed with ash from the fires, rocks, and dirt. That poor man. Emergency workers rescued a man after a mudslide in Montecito on Tuesday. Some single-story homes were obliterated, just wiped off the foundation, he said. Others had holes blown through from boulders. The mud also hid some dangers from rescue workers. We've gotten multiple reports of rescue workers falling through manholes that were covered with mud, swimming pools that were covered up with mud. Anthony Buzzero, a Los Angeles County Fire Battalion chief, told the Associated Press. The mud is acting like a candy shell on ice cream. It's crusty on top but soft underneath, so we're having to be very careful. 5 highways remain closed on Wednesday, including rural 2-lane roads, where Tim Weisberg, a spokesman for the California Department of Transportation, the main north-south roadway, the 101 freeway, will be closed at least until Monday. There are some portions that look like a riverbed, Mr. Weisberg said of the 101. It's a mixture of dirt, debris, boulders, and rocks. In some areas, it can be 6 inches or a foot deep. Ron Werft, president of Cottage Health, a hospital in Santa Barbara that has treated those injured by the mudslides, said that the hospital had to shuttle personnel by boat and by air as a result of the closing of the 101, a crucial north-south artery. Excuse me, I have to cough. Under some blue skies Wednesday, rescue workers made some progress, clearing roads that had trapped residents in the area around Romero Canyon. Oh, did I remember to share with everyone? Yeah, I did. Okay, good. Northeast of Montecito. But the longer-term consequences were becoming evident, including damage to water mains and small pipes that provide the area with water. We still have no water currently in storage, said Nick Turner, a general manager for the Montecito Water District. The Water District instructed those residents still receiving tap water to boil it before using it for cooking or drinking. Using bulldozers and other heavy equipment, workers cleared trees, boulders, down power lines, household items, and building materials that had been swept onto the roads. A little bit of everything you can imagine, including a kitchen sink, Mr. Eliason said. Literally, a kitchen sink was found. Among the dead was Roy Roeder, 84, said Michael Van Heck, a friend and headmaster of St. Augustine Academy, a classical Catholic school Mr. Roeder founded in nearby Ventura. Mr. Van Heck said he learned of his friend's death from Mr. Roeder's daughter. He was a real scrapper, an entrepreneur, Mr. Van Heck said. He bootstrapped himself all the way up to a very successful life. The mudslide also injured Mr. Roeder's wife, Teresa, at their home in Montecito. Amber Anderson, a spokeswoman for the joint recovery effort, which involves 14 helicopters and nearly 500 personnel, including firefighters and emergency workers from several counties, said the affected area was nearly 20,000 acres. Among those who were reported missing on Tuesday were a boy of a father who was swept hundreds of yards downstream and the father of a sailor stationed in Hawaii. Montecito is home to the mansions owned by celebrities like Oprah Winfrey and Ellen DeGeneres, but most of the damage occurred to more modest homes in the flatlands. The wreckage of the downpour, coming so soon after the wildfires, was not a coincidence, but a direct result of the charred lands left vulnerable to quickly forming mudslides. The wildfires, known as the Thomas Fire, burned over 280,000 acres last month, spanning Santa Barbara and Ventura counties, and became California's largest on record. The area has not received significant rainfall since last spring. I think most people are really shocked by the extent of the damage and how much the impact was to the area, Sheriff Brown said in an interview. Although we knew this was coming, you couldn't help but be amazed at the intensity of this storm. And I want to show you guys this video.
They begin in an instant and soon grow into a fast-moving torrent of soil and water, boulders, trees, and debris that can wipe out roads, houses, even whole towns, and lives. Mudslides, or what scientists call debris flows, happen on steep slopes all over the world when rain or melting snow saturates the ground, making it unstable. They can be set off by earthquakes or other natural disasters, but often the trigger is gravity itself. Mudslides occur on many kinds of slopes, and erosion often plays a role. But hillsides that have recently been burned over by fire are especially vulnerable. When trees burn, their roots eventually die, leaving little to anchor the soil in place. Then heavy rains can create a potentially deadly situation. The water fills the space between the dirt grains, in effect lubricating the soil. At some point, the force of gravity is stronger than the friction holding the soil together, and the mudslide begins. Many start out small, but they can grow tenfold as the debris scours the bottom and sides, picking up more soil and water, rocks, trees, and anything else in the way. They can flow at speeds of more than 20 miles an hour before reaching flatter ground, slowing down and spreading out. Much of the damage is caused by a surge front, a wall of boulders and other large objects that accumulate as the flowing material naturally separates. This is followed by finer material that often resembles wet concrete. When the mudslide finally stops, the mixture starts to lose water and harden. The tangle of debris can make rescue difficult, if not impossible.
Wow. That was from 2014. Did you notice that, guys? And there's another video here I want to show you. It's a lady getting rescued. Rescuers search for survivors after rains. At least 15 people were killed. Aw, poor little dog. In some areas, the rain fell at a rate of an inch per hour.
You know, it sounded like a freight train, you know, coming right by
John
the house.
Livergood, Santa Barbara resident.
We heard this noise and we thought it was helicopter.
Ashley Lamberti, Santa Barbara resident. Wow. The mudslides and flooding closed major roads and brought down power lines. Tens of thousands of people were left without power. Wow. That seriously breaks my heart, man. So, well, pretty grim news we have going on, and I thought I'd share this with you because I haven't seen this being reported anywhere. 280,000 acres burned, and just now over 20,000 acres have been affected by mudslides. That's a pretty severe thing. 15 people dead, and there's even more that might die that are critically injured. So this is a pretty grave accident that's happened, and maybe it's because it's in a so-called wealthy area that it doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, that community is in between the very first nuclear meltdown and Diablo Canyon. So those ashes probably have lots of radioactive debris in it, as a matter of a fact. Unfortunately, we don't know because they don't test. But I'm going to keep reading these stories. Tomorrow night, I know for sure I'm going to bring you a story about what the judge decided in Fukushima. It's a pretty long story, so I'm going to dedicate myself to that tomorrow night. And then if you guys have any suggestions, put it in the comments. Thank you for joining us. Please remember to thumbs up to keep the thumbs up going as much as possible. Let's out thumbs up the thumbs down. Let's thumbs up as much as possible. Share my video, share my channel. Please subscribe if you haven't already subscribed before. And I'll see you tomorrow night. I certainly appreciate you being here. Put your courage bead on, you guys. Take some action. Protect yourself, and we'll talk to you guys later. Ciao.